This update is for September 2019. It's my 40-gallon breeder, mostly stocked with Acropora and acans. Continued good growth and coloration. I have a little bit of tissue recession here at the base of this tricolor Acropora. I'm also struggling with the same coral in my other tank, so there may be something to that. Maybe a trace element issue. I'm just going to continue to observe and hopefully I figure it out before the issue spreads any further. I mean, this is how much recession I've managed to get over a month, so I don't think it's something that's going to happen overnight. I'm going to attempt to trim some of these branches back. Maybe it's a lack of light issue here at the base. I've managed to keep the cyano issue I had previously at bay, but due to my increased feeding, I am experiencing some pretty heavy algae here on the rock in some locations. It's pretty much issues where this tang here can't get to. I've got a little bit of algae issues. It hasn't affected any of the bases of the corals, so I'm just going to maintain my heavy feeding. Nothing new in this tank as far as corals and inhabitants. My plan is just to leave this tank alone and not add anything. I've managed to come this far without any pests whatsoever, no bubble algae, no starfish, no anemones or anything like that. There's also a little bit of tissue receding here at the base. I'm thinking this one's definitely because of lack of light. So I just need to get a little heavier on the fragging before I have some algae issues here at the base. You can see inside the branches of this coral, there's a little bit of tissue loss. Other than those two colonies, everything's doing great. Red table, it's getting huge. The tips here on the Bali green slimer that I fragged have split into about 5 or 6 tips on each branch. So it's a much nicer looking colony in my opinion. Sometimes fragging ends up making the colony branch out and become much more appealing. 75-gallon tank's doing great. That same tricolor that I was experiencing tissue loss I had on the main branch, the original frag, it became almost a complete loss except for the underside. I went ahead and snapped it off and put it in the frag tank just on the egg crate. Maybe I'll shoot some branches off. I don't want to throw it out. Here's my gold millie. Some good growth, throwing off some branches on the base. It's got a really nice gold reddish tone to it. There's another millie, nice and fuzzy, doing good. This entire rock structure that the Bali green slimer on has fallen over. I need to get in there and put it back to its original position. Here's a close-up on some of the montes growing on the glass. No real issues in this tank. Oh, except I do have a pink Cadillac frag. I've been struggling for months with it. It's down to just a nub. Hoping it doesn't progress any further. Sometimes it is what it is. One new addition. Got a new acan frag yesterday. Saw the color on this one, just had to pick it up. Was there originally just to get some food. 40-gallon fusion, making good progress. I've added a pipefish. He feeds all day on these pods. This tank has just been loaded, more than any other tank I've ever owned. They're actually free swimming in the water column everywhere. They're all over the glass. I just cleaned the glass for the video. Normally there's way more. So I think he's got a pretty good food source. He probably eats 10,000 of these a day. Just kind of picks at them. I'm trying to get him to take a liking to frozen Kalana shrimp or mysis. They do have very small mouths. But I think I've had him for a little over a month now, and he's not too shy. He feeds all day. He seems healthy. He's got a nice gut to him. I've added a flower anemone in here. It's kind of settled nicely here in between the rock and the sand. I have a Florida Rick. And there's a few Zoanthid polyps in here. They haven't been one to open all the way. As you can see, this one's kind of partially open. And it'll stay like that all day. I don't have much experience with Zoanthids. If anyone has any tips on what that could be, maybe too much lighting, I'm not sure. This Chinese LED box is quite a lot of wattage for this square inch, footprint on the bottom. Coral frag refugium, doing good. I'm gonna thin this out a little bit. I'm stocking a friend's tank with some acros, and I'm gonna take some into the fish store for some credit. Give me some room to do some more fragging in the 40-gallon breeder on those colonies that appear they may be shading the bases of themselves out. On the previous update, I was having some issue on the bases of the frags. I added some trochus snails, so I think I have a total of 7. I did have 3 in here previously, but with the extra addition, they quickly made work on the bases, and they're algae free. So it's good knowing I don't have to keep any fish or anything in here. It's anything extra to keep after or feed. In my update 4 months ago, I had upgraded my RODI system to a 3-stage DI resin from a 2-stage. I'm now running in the first stage a cation resin, the second stage an anion, and then the third a mixed bed. Previously, I was going through one of the mixed bed resins every month and a half. With the 3-stage setup, so far in about 3.5 months, I've had to replace the second stage, the anion. No visible consumption of the first stage, nor the third stage, the mixed bed. So it was definitely worth the money for the extra bracket I had to purchase and canister. As you guys may have heard, we had a hurricane scare here in South Florida, Hurricane Dorian. Prayers to those in the Bahamas. They suffered a lot of damage. I wasn't able to make it to Macna this year. At one point it was showing a direct hit basically at the town I live in, and I wasn't about to drive up to Orlando to go to a coral show when I could be facing damage, power loss at my house that could affect the tanks. So I hung around, prepped, did what I could, and ended up missing us. We just had a little bit of wind. I lost power for 3 hours. No big deal. Could have been really bad if it made it. I hope to make it to a Macna here in the future. My temporary solution for a power loss is 12-volt batteries. I have 3 in total. 2 I removed from my boat. 2 of them are 210-minute reserve capacity, and one is 140. I've used this in past hurricanes, and you get several hours. I think I've done almost 10 hours running TVs, lights, fans, and the tanks all at once. Have them charged up, ready to go. I have a multimeter here to check the status. And I have a battery charger, so if I do lose power long term, I can charge it during the day off the generator, and then if I want, I can give the generator a break at night and shut it off, and I can run off this battery setup. Works very well. I always have one battery here that's not on the boat. helps me sleep at night knowing I have a temporary solution to run the tanks, give them some oxygen, and keep, my pets alive. House is quite dark and sad, all boarded up. Tank is a nice shining light. I have a 7,000 watt continuous generator that I've been using for several years. Works very well running the whole house, the well pump, water heater, lights, and window AC units. They don't seem to know anything's coming. I have 3 window units, one for the bedroom, and then I plan on putting one in this window and one in this window. I got the boat pulled out of the water, secured, all the windows boarded up. It's Monday. Winds are picking up a little bit, but it looks like the storm's gonna completely miss us. But you gotta prepare ahead of time. You don't want to be putting up all the boards in the wind and rain. Is that all you got? I think I could help this along a little bit. The neighborhood cockatiel doesn't seem to mind the hurricane. And yes, we have a cockatiel that lives in our neighborhood. He's just been moseying around for about a year, eating everyone's bird seed. He's just hanging.